Travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is an updated melee Necromancer with minions. Now, minions saw a buff in 8.1. At level 100, they now get 40% more damage and damage reduction, which is very nice for them. Of course, that ramps up starting at level 20. You get a 0.5% for every character level that you have. And if we take the melee build that we did last patch and we implement the new one-hand unique item that you can have, which is a one-handed Raider Axe. It's a unique version of it, and it gives up to plus 16 melee cold damage for your minions, and it also gives you a bunch of damage as well. So it's really nice. We're going to tie in Harvest into this build now, and Harvest is going to, one, allow you to join your minions in the crusade of being melee as a Necromancer, which is something that is not very usual. In fact, I maybe have seen one build video in the whole time I've played last Epoch of a Necromancer actually playing melee because their survivability was horrible. And now you get to join them. On top of that, you get ward every time that you use Harvest. You give your minions not only a big boost of damage, you can give them up to 300% more damage, but you can give them 250% more crit chance as well. So it turned our minions into 100% crit machines at all times, even if Dread Shade is lacking, and then at the same time you can give them a huge boost of damage. We are killing bosses 2 to 3 times faster than we were last patch, which is huge, and our gear is really simple. We didn't have to recraft for any of the resistances or endurance or any of the new affixes. So crafting for this is really simple. You'll be wearing a lot of uniques. That part's harder. You'll have to have the Ensanguous and the low life set, and then of course the Raider Axe. You'll have to go farm the Frost Lich and at the empowered version of it a few times in order to get that drop. But once you get those, this build really comes together and starts doing a massive amount of damage, as you'll see in the gameplay. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills. First skills, I'm running Infernal Shade, Dread Shade, Summon Skeleton Mage, Summon Skeleton, and Harvest. For Infernal Shade, yes, this has a bug to it. However, you don't even have to use this skill. If you want, you could throw the Golem or some other skill in instead. The reason that I have it is because it does boost legitly the damage of the minion itself. However, the actual Infernal Shade itself, with its little aura of fire doing damage, does build up over time. So every once in a while I let that minion die. Now I do have some game that I'll play at the end of a run against Abomination one time without using Infernal Shade to compare it to what's like running with, and you'll notice that there was no difference because one, Infernal Shade was being casted right at the start of battle, so it didn't really have time to ramp up like the bug allows it to do, and so you can tell that this build can do just fine without it. But if you do decide to build it, we have 3 points in Influence, 1 point in Devour in Flames, 1 point in Burn Trail, 1 point in Subjugation, 1 point in Soulfire, 3 points in Demonic Possession. This is the huge one. Now, the reason that I say this is bugged is because it's supposed to do damage to your minion as well, which means your minion would eventually die. However, it doesn't actually hurt your minion, and that's why it's allowed to last forever. But your minion gets a huge boost of 72% attack and move speed, which is absolutely huge and why I have it. Now only one minion's going to have this on them, so it's not a huge thing for the build, but it is nice. Then we have 1 point in Fanning the Flames, 1 point in Blaze Shade, 3 points in Cacking Flames, 1 point in Flight or Fire, and 4 points in Shifting Doom. For Dread Shade is very important. Since you're now in melee range with your minions, it's actually very easy to stay inside the circle of Dread Shade, and it gives you a lot of boost. It gives you a bunch of attack speed, it's going to give you a bunch of armor, and it's going to increase your survivability, and that's why you can face tank with them at bosses, because you have so much armor and protection coming from this, and it increases as your minion's life decreases. And then the attack speed and the damage boost from it is absolutely crazy. We have 3 points in Spectral Presence, 3 points in Dying Coven. This will give you and all the minions around you that are inside the circle 45% increased attack speed, which is huge. 2 points in Grim Fate. This will also give you more damage. 1 point in Symbolic Apparition means it now affects you and your allies inside the circle. 3 points in Flesh Harvest. All of the bonuses that you've seen already will now get a boost, the more life that's missing on the person that has Dread Shade on them. 1 point in Dread Plague. and 1 point in Martyrdom. This gives you 25 armor per point of intelligence, which is nice because you stack a lot of intelligence with this build. Then we have 3 points in Lingering Doom, 1 point in Blind Fury, so whoever has this on them will have even more attack speed, but they'll be blind. However, blind isn't really a big deal. For 2 reasons. Blind is supposed to make it to where you have reduced accuracy, where you're supposed to miss, and it's supposed to reduce your crit. However, whoever has this is playing melee, so they can't really aim erratically and miss from a distance because they're in melee range. And 2, whoever has Dreadshade also has 100% crit, so it's impossible to reduce your crit chance. With 1 point in Pernicious Pact, it no longer decays the health, but instead just applies a poison that lasts forever. And 1 point in Egoism gives it a cooldown so that you can always have it on autocast and not worry about it just spamming it. And then the minion will always crit, which is why the minion will continue to crit even though they are blinded. For Summon Skeleton Mage, we have it set up to have the Death Knights with 2 points in Leech Life, 1 point in Death Knights, 5 points in Flaming Attacks for that plus 20 fire damage. 5 points in Stellar Mortis gives them a huge amount of base crit chance so that they'll always crit. 3 points in Grey Merchant so that their maximum health gained whenever they crit is 15% of it back, they're healed for. Order of Death gives you plus 1 Death Knights. 2 points in Splintered Dominion so that they have a higher or a bigger area effect with their melee attacks, and 1 point in Agronautic Speed for more attack speed. For Summon Skeleton, we have it set up so it's only warriors. We have 5 points in Sweeping Strikes for increased damage and melee area of effect, 2 points in Unbound Necromancy for crit chance, 1 point in Grave Walkers for 1 more skeleton, 2 points in Unholy Rage for some attack speed, 1 point in Marrow Walkers for 1 more skeleton, 3 points in Necrotic Conviction, which gives warriors more maximum health, 1 point in Hollow Walkers for 1 more maximum skeleton, 1 point in Shambling Steel so it removes archers so you only have warriors, 1 point in Bone Armor so they can now cast Bone Armor, 3 points in Impatience so that the Bone Armor duration lasts longer and they can cast it more often. And then for Harvest, we have Harvest set up so that we can attack in melee range with our minions, and they will attack the target that we look for. We'll also give them a boost in damage and a boost in strike chance. We have 2 points in Finality, 5 points in Skull Shards so that every 6 hits that you do with Harvest, you'll get a bonus in damage, and so will your minions, a 300% bonus in damage, and it says more damage, so it's a huge multiplier. 1 point in Undead Harvest, so that minions prioritize who you're going for. The enemy will also take 5% more damage. 4 points in Legion of the Lich gives increased minions crit chance, 200%. Your minions will have 200% more crit whenever you do a critical strike with Harvest for 4 seconds. That's why you want to be in there attacking with them. 3 points in Mind Harvest that you get 6 ward if you hit a cursed enemy. 1 point in Mere Soul so that you gain 1% of your health is granted as ward if you hit a cursed enemy. 3 points in Great Scythe for increased area. 1 point in Spectral Waitstone for that 3% base crit to help you crit more often so that you can proc the crit chance for the minions. For passives, I have 20 points in the base Acolyte class with 7 points in Blood Aura, 8 points in Forbidden Knowledge, and 5 points in Dark Rituals. We have 11 points in the Lich with 8 points in Crippling Insight for all of that intellect, 2 points in Survival of the Cruel so that we could unlock the 1 point in Hollow Lich so that we gain all of our health leech is turned into increased damage. Now, you could put some points if you want into like Dance with Death since you are a low life build, but the reason we're not giving ourselves too much damage is it's the minions that are really doing all of the damage. Even though we get some good crits in with Harvest, you know, we can hit for 5k, 6k damage on a mob with the 300% more damage boost. You only get that so often and it's just not worth it. Your minions are going to outperform you by a. And then we have 80 points in the Necromancer, our mastered class, with 2 points in Elixir of Hunger, 8 points in Risen Army, 3 points in Cursed Blood, 1 point in Blood Armor, 5 points in Mortal Tether, 3 points in Aegis Fall, 1 point in Unbound Necromancy, 3 points in Unearthed Arms, 3 points in Tyrant, 2 points in Tyrant's Legion. for that +2 maximum skeletons. They also do 10% more damage. 5 points in Frantic Summons, 10 points in Moonlight Prior, 5 points in River of Bones, which is a huge amount of damage for you and your minions, and critical strike chance. 8 points in here for the intelligence and the increasing critical strike chance. 10 points in Rite of Undeath, which gives 150% increased minion elemental damage, which is huge because the weapon gave them a bunch of cold damage, and they have a bunch of fire damage from the node below it, and necrotic damage, so you get that 150% necrotic damage in elemental, which is just a huge boost to all their flat types, so they start doing a lot of damage after you get the 10 points in there. 5 points in Blades of Forlorn, 5 points in Veins of Malice, and 1 point in Disciplines of Necromancy for that 5th mage. For items and idols, running a lot of 1x2s that have elemental resist, you can also get increased health with them, and then we have 2 1x3s that have Skeleton, Mage, and Skeleton, which will be your Skeleton Warriors critical strike chance. That is base critical strike chance. And then we have physical damage for us and our minions. And then you can also put in 1x2s with increased health and flat health if you'd like, if you have the elemental resist. Both of them are going to help you. The more health you have, the more ward generation you have per second, which is going to increase your survivability. Now, we are wearing a lot of uniques, some of them rare, some of them not. Most of them easy to get. The only one that you're not really going to be able to get is Enzanguius, but there is an Acolyte version of it that does a little bit less for you. However, the new one, the Eulogy of Blood, is the big one. This gives a huge amount of melee damage. It also gives minions the melee cold damage, which is the thing that you want the most. You can farm this by killing the Frost Lich empowered. It has a 10% drop rate, so you'll probably have to do it a few times, but once it drops, you're going to love it. Then we have Enzanguius and the Last Steps of the Living for all of that healthy ward that we get while it steals our life. We have 1 Hollow Fingeron for the +1 skeleton. This also gives us 13 necrotic melee damage. Now, we don't really need that. We also don't need the chill on hit. So if you'd like to, you can craft an item. Almost anything you craft can fit in this spot. We also have 1 Ribbons of Blood. Now, you're going to want this. This gives the minions a lot of leech. It also gives them physical damage, but it makes sure that they can't be crit. So they will never be crit, which is really helpful. It also has a nice juicy percentage of health for you. And then we have the Death Rattle so that their crits can do up to 200% more critical strike damage, which is huge. They'll take a little bit more damage, but that's okay. They still have really high survivability. And then for our crafted items, we have the Burial Mask with Intellect, Minion Health, Regen Health, and Increased Health. We're wearing a Catalyst. The first thing you want to make sure you do is get the most intelligence you can. It can roll up to 13, so make sure you're using one that's up at the top end of 11, 12, 13. That intellect is very helpful for the build. It gives you ward retention. It also gives life and damage to your minions. On it we have increased minion health, minion dodge, elemental resist, and some minion damage. Now, the minion damage is now a prefix, so this is a legacy item that I had. It's the same one we used on the last build. You won't be able to get that, so you will have a little bit less damage. You can definitely put something else there. Another resistance, which, none of ours are capped, so you can put, whatever else you think will fit the best for your build in that slot. For the belt, we have the bronze belt with minion health regen, minion damage, increased health, and hybrid health. For the gloves, we have the Crusader gauntlets for the void resistance and the armor. And then it has intelligence, minion damage, hybrid, and flat health. And then for the relic, we're using the Putrid Souls one for the poison resist and the ward per second. On it, we have intelligence, minion health regen, health, and physical resistance. For the character sheet, as you can see, we're not capped on any of our resistances. However, we do have a decent amount of damage reduction from them. None of them are at 0. We only have 10% armor when we're standing here. We have no dodge. It would look like you're not a very tanky build, even though we have 2,000 health, which turned into about 4,000 to 5,000 ward. You don't look very tanky. However, you do get tankiness because the moment I'm going to pop a Dread Shade on my minion here, the moment that you're in it, your armor jumps up to 34%, and it's only going to get higher as their life goes down. Right now, he's not going to drop life super fast, but you can see that he's slowly doing it, and our armor is slowly coming up. Also, in our damage stats, you gain a lot of damage from this, and your damage will go up as he loses life as well. You just want to make sure that you keep Dread Shades on them. You'll have it on autocast, so it'll constantly be proccing. Alright, and then for how we actually play the build, I like to put Dread Shade on autocast. I will do just one Infernal Shade, and then I make sure I got all your minions out, of course, so we'll go ahead and summon all those guys. And you'll have mages, and then you will have a total of 11 warriors. And what we're going to do is, as you attack, they're going to get a damage boost. So you can see your damage here against the training enemy. We're critting for 2 to 3 hit. 6 hit, we're doing 5,000 normal damage. Crit for close to about 20. If you get lucky and you crit on the 6th hit, we don't have 100% crit on that. But once we get all our here, once we go ahead and attack, you'll see that they are going to be doing some massive damage. They're doing anywhere from 10, 20, even some 20k crits. It's an absolute just amount of damage they do. They are critting really, really hard. They're going to be hitting mobs. Each minion individually will be doing 1,000 to 2,000 damage crits on the level 100 mobs, which is just really, really crazy. Alright, let's go ahead and get into some gameplay.